As a realtor, your image and reputation is everything, which is why making sure your profiles, images are updated, accurate, and reflect who you are as a professional is critical. At REMAX Results, we've created a complimentary online audit to help you make sure that your online presence is an accurate reflection of you for your customers. So if you're interested in having this complimentary guide, shoot us an email, podcast@results.net.
Coming up, I have 3 amazing and successful women from the Results family for the first of 2 episodes about women in real estate. Tina Sharif, Anita McKeown, and Stephanie Gruver are here. And in part 1, we are going to cover the biggest challenges they've faced in real estate, why their path led them to real estate, and how they ended up at the REMAX Results family. And it all starts now. I'm super excited to be here today with you lovely ladies. I have 3 women representing REMAX Results. We've got Tina Sharif from our Andover office. You've been with us 3 years yet? 2.5? Yep. Okay, 3 years. Gosh, time just flies. Anita McKeown from our Crocus Hill office. And you've been with REMAX Results 16 years. And Steph Gruver, second time on the podcast. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You didn't want me to say that, did you?
No.
And it's been 12 years.
12 years?
Yes.
Loring Park?
I can't believe that. Yeah. So, yep, in our Loring Park office. So, thanks, ladies. This is the first time we've had this many of us on the show all at once, and we're trying something different. This will be a 2-part series. So, part 1, part 2, and we're going to focus on women in real estate. The challenges, the success stories, and why real estate really is a great career for women, because you are your own boss, you run your own business, and there is no glass ceiling. The earning potential is limitless. Would you agree?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. And most people who join real estate come from a different career in their background. I'm going to start with you, Anita. What did you do before you?
I was a trader on the equity trading desk at Norwest Investments. So I had my Series 7, my Blue Sky from Minnesota. And then prior to that, I waited tables because I was an English and theater major, and they weren't recruiting me in the mid-'80s.
Okay, interesting.
So I waited tables, and then I started at the equity trading desks.
Wow.
And I've always just kind of said that those 2 careers sort of feathered together have allowed me to
How did you
real
transition into real estate? Did you
It
know?
was it was kind of abrupt. I really wanted to sell, and gentleman that was in charge at Norwest Investments didn't think that I had any sales background. And so I gave myself 2 years, because the Series 7 is, it's not an impossible test certainly to pass, but it's a challenge. And I gave myself 2 years to make it in the business before I had to retake the tests. So,
Yes.
and it worked out. Yeah,
That's good.
So I lost my Series 7 license.
And so how old were you then when you started real estate?
32.
32. Okay. All right. That seems to be kind of, well, I don't know. Tina, you don't look a day over 24. I mean, how about you? You've been in real estate 3 years. What were you doing?
Well, I've been in real estate 5 years, going on 6.
3 at REMAX Results.
3 at REMAX,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And what were you doing? How did you get into real estate?
Yeah, so prior to real estate, I was working for Aetna in the operations department as an account exec. I just knew, it's always been within me, like, I knew that working for someone, doing the typical 9 to 5, staying behind a cubicle was just not it. But I had to do what I had to do to make ends meet and pay the bills. And I had recently graduated with my master's, hoping to continue to advance my career. It's funny how I got into real estate. Let me backtrack. So working the 9 to 5, got the master's, I'm like, okay, I'm going to further my career. And then my sister-in-law, she's a stay-at-home mom, of course, bored out of her mind. She's always finding little things like, Tina, I'm thinking about getting my license, and I think you should. And she knows my personality. She knows that, entrepreneur minded. I've tried different things in the past, life insurance, multi-level marketing, all types of sales stuff. And so I said, I think I can give it a go, and got my license. Initially, it was, okay, I'm going to get my license because we're eventually going to buy, and it's going to be good to get to know the background and all the details about buying. And but once I represented my first client, it was just like a light bulb just switched in my head. I knew this was for me. So that's how I got in.
And you hit the ground running. Yeah, good for you.
Thank you.
And Steph, a little bit of your backstory.
Well, I graduated from St. Cloud State, and I wanted to move to the big city and get a job working for a big company and have corporate benefits like dental and health insurance. So I was, 22, went to work for Norwest Insurance back in the day. It was 1994. Ended up going from Norwest Insurance to Norwest Trust to still doing insurance, property casualty insurance. Ended up going to a couple of different companies in between. At one point, I worked for Marsh & McLennan, the largest broker in the world at that time. And, I really loved insurance, but there was always this, unless you were going to maybe own your own agency, you weren't really going to probably find that career that I really wanted. And I was always from an entrepreneurial background. My parents had a small business. My grandfather had started many small businesses. My uncle had started what's still a fairly well-known company in East Central Minnesota, Gruver Pole Barns. So it's funny, you grow up with that. And I realized I was always the last person at the office. And, I was always making sure everything was taken care of. Well, if you've got that mentality, you oftentimes don't get paid for that working for someone else. And I spent a couple of years in a nonprofit housing developer that it further exposed me to real estate. And I decided that, maybe I should get my license and give this a try. And I did 3 transactions before I quit my job in 2009, which was like the worst year ever to decide to go into real estate. I had the support of my husband, Robert, who had a stable job with a school district. And he said, if this would make you happy, go into real estate. So I did. And my first year in the business, I closed 34 transactions. And I think my average sale price was $125,000 back then. But it just lit a fire under me like no other. And within a couple of years, I came to REMAX Results. So interesting side note, REMAX Results, I have never been with any company in any capacity longer than I've been at REMAX. It's 12 years now. I had some nice long...
Same. Yeah, same.
I had some nice career time in insurance with other companies, and there were some very nice employers along the way and some family-owned insurance brokerage that was very good to me. But honestly, I was looking at our stats, and I'm like, this is the longest I've been anywhere in my entire working career.
I've always said to people, back when I was recruiting full-time, it's not always the real estate brokerage to start out at. It is now. We have new agent training programs, but back in the day we didn't. But I always said, but we're the place to end up at. And, a lot of people start out someplace else and then transition here with the big players.
Well, I remember when I started in real estate.
Yeah.
I started with a different brokerage, did the training, et cetera. And he always described REMAX Results as, that's where the cowboys go.
That's funny.
So
I take that as a compliment.
Yeah. Yep. And because actually that was back when it was Crossroads.
Yes. Yeah.
So-
REMAX Crossroads. Yep.
I must add that that's one of the reasons why I came, and that was one of the things that inspired me about the company, especially in my office. Everyone's like more than 10, 15 years. I'm like, wow. So
Right.
yeah, speaks to the company.
It's who you surround yourself with. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. So which one of you, I'm going to pick on you, Anita, because I think you might just share a story, like a struggle or a challenge in real estate, particularly starting out. And now when you look back on that that situation or that challenge? You shrug it off, you laugh it off. But what's something that
I think really one of the
Excuse me.
hardest things that happened to me early on in my career when my mother-in-law and father-in-law bought a townhome with Ginger Overby.
oh, how dare they?
That was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
How long had you been in the business?
I think about 2 years.
But it happens to everyone. It
Yeah.
happens.
It does.
Everybody
It
has that
absolutely
story.
does. It absolutely does. And it's one of those things, I can remember, fortunately, I had agents around me that were like, ugh, Anita, can't believe it, can't believe it. But then there was another agent that said, okay, in 20 years, is this going to matter? Nope. Move on.
Great answer. Yep.
Pick yourself up, move on. And the really cool thing is, there are disappointments in the business. I don't think if you care a lot, you can't not be disappointed sometimes. But there's just so many joys, just so many joys and gifts and
That outweigh. That's why they say there's so many women realtors. Obviously, the draw of being your own business owner and no glass ceiling and that sort of stuff. But women are just drawn to working and helping families and people in their homes. It's just
the stories are just so inspiring and cool, and you're walking along with people at a point. Real estate is almost always inspired by big things that are going on in life:
changes.
death, divorce, birth, marriage, and it's just an honor to be there with people during that.
It's rewarding.
Yep.
Yep. How about you, Steph? Do you have?
It's kind of funny. I didn't look at it. A lot of people thought I was a little crazy because when I started with the goal of working in my community and working in my neighborhood. And the neighborhood was North Minneapolis and Camden, and it was in foreclosure. At one point at a community meeting, and there was all these people from the city there. I said, well, we're looking at these maps and the whole neighborhood. There's dots all over these maps where all these houses are in foreclosure. And I made the comment, well, look at that. At least the cemetery is not in foreclosure. Like it was the only place that didn't have vacant foreclosed homes because it was the cemetery. So, a lot of people thought that I was kind of crazy to target market that neighborhood in 2009, 2010, because there was so much distressed real estate. And I took the opposite approach. Everyone was ignoring the neighborhood. So I became very determined to do a good job with the neighborhood, looking for, and I was getting, and I got listings right away because nobody knew who to call that could magically sell their house. And there was no magic wand to selling real estate in 2009, 10, 11, but you just had to work really, really hard and also do a good job. So initially I wasn't using professional photographers. There wasn't really a lot of budget for it at that time as a new agent. So I bought a really good camera with a wide angle lens and I did my own photos and I helped people with staging. And then I started to work with a stager. So I learned staging so I could do a lot of my own staging. And we just really, I just really worked. I can remember weekends where I had 4 listings and I would be doing open houses, noon to 2, take a half-hour break, and then 2:30 to 4:30, Saturday and Sunday, so I could get all my, listings. And sometimes I would sit there and nobody would come. Sometimes it would only be friends stopping by to say hello, but I was working and I was present. And eventually the sales started to come and it worked out. But, I know there's other people at the time that were watching me going, I can't believe how hard you're working this. And I said, well, that's all I know to do. Like comes from my parents. My parents were very hard workers. So, but I was also having so much fun. I didn't have to sit in an office in some office building someplace. I could work from home. My husband's an IT guy, so he bought a really good 3-in-1 printer and I'm off and running. And, I got the technology piece down so I could be more efficient. And it just really started to click. And it just, it took off. And I'll never forget, a friend of mine was in politics, and I said, how many signs should I buy? How many real estate? Because I was going to buy my first set of custom signs. And I was thinking I'd order 3. And he said to me, you can never have too many signs. Order a dozen. So as a new agent with a limited budget, I ordered a dozen custom signs. And within a year, I had every single sign up in the neighborhood.
Nice.
So that was, but it was so much work getting the word out,
So
doing
much
the
work,
network.
but so much fun. When you said that earlier, Anita just lit up. So much fun.
It was. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And helping people.
Doing what you love. Yeah. So Tina, how about you?
Well, in the beginning stages of my real estate career, I was juggling full-time work and real estate. And there was a challenge there because real estate kind of fueled me. And I knew where that energy was moving towards. And so whenever I would have to log into the 9 to 5 and do it, you could just tell my spirit was just drawn down. And so balancing that for the first 2 years was a challenge, and also to feeling a little bit the support wasn't there, because when you're in the business, you're operating as an independent contractor, you're pretty much responsible for your own results, input and results. So feeling that, that roadmap wasn't really laid out for me, there was a lot of challenge. How do I reach people? How do I market myself? So a lot of stuff that I was doing was just trial and error. And I utilized social media a lot. And then another challenge too is the community that I come from. Not a lot of us are homeowners. So it's like, really starting from scratch, and that education piece, and not really fully knowing what I'm talking about right away, and trying to empower and inspire and educate people from my community. That was a challenge, but I stuck with it.
Did you go it alone, or were you partnering with anyone? Or
No, I've been solo from the moment I've been licensed.
in part 2 of our Women in Real Estate series, we will dive deeper and get real about the challenges they've faced in real estate because they are women. We'll cover advice for women who are considering getting into the real estate business and what they would like to see changed overall in the business. That will be next time on the Results Driven Podcast.
Are you thinking about starting your own podcast? Just like this podcast you're listening to now? Our team at digitalegendmedia.com can help you launch and produce your very own podcast, just like we've been doing for REMAX Results over the last 2 years. Content creation is one of the best ways to grow and strengthen relationships with your past, present, and future clients. We would enjoy the opportunity to talk with you about leveraging content to grow your business. Contact us at digitalegendmedia.com. You are not alone. Digital Legend Media is here to guide you and do all the heavy lifting when it comes to content creation. DigitalLegendMedia.com. Reach out to us today for your free consultation.